Good morning.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for spending time at the Ag Conference each year.
Thank you for welcoming us. We love being here. We know how important agriculture is to Nebraska as a whole. So
we love the opportunity to be able to speak to your listeners and talk about what we're doing to the Kearney audience here.
So I'm going to go kind of backwards. I'm going to ask the same question to you that I just asked to Governor Pete Ricketts. Looking into the crystal ball a little bit, what does the trend look like for Nebraska agriculture over the next, say, 5 years?
Well, I echo a lot of what he said long term, in that the opportunities are there. We just need to figure out how to take advantage of them. I think you're asking a little bit more about the short term window a little bit, and so we definitely commodity prices are down. And almost across the board. So there's very few areas in agriculture in Nebraska right now that are experiencing true profitability. And so, over the next 5 years, until we can do something to either affect supply, which is usually a negative, it's either a drought here in the U.S. or somewhere else around the world, or we have to do something to influence demand and change that demand opportunity. And so that's really what we need short term to be able to return profitability back to agriculture. And so that's what we're focusing on. That's why what the governor was talking about in opening a new market like China to beef, that would be a demand shift. And that's really the kind of solution we need to work with our federal partners with, and then be positioned as a state once that opportunity is open to be there to take advantage of it and claim that market for our Nebraska farm goods.
From a federal perspective, the Department of Agriculture is actually the second biggest department, right behind the Department of Defense. Now, marching towards us steadily as every day passes is 2018, and with 2018 comes the Farm Bill. What do you hope to see change? Do you hope that everything just kind of remains the same? How will that affect Nebraska agriculture?
Well, I think that there's, the basic pillars of the Farm Bill are going to remain intact or part of that discussion. I think that how we influence those for the changes that are going to be made within them is very important. There's a trade part of the Farm Bill where market access programs are funded. Those are very important to agriculture. One of the goals of U.S. agriculture is to double that money in challenging budget times with an administration that is wanting to address government spending. That's going to be a challenge, but I think it's also an opportunity to help us move that demand expectation as well, to be able to fund programs and be more competitive with other countries around the world. The conservation title, I think, is a way that we can reward farmers and ranchers on working lands for things that consumers expect as far as taking care of the environment. And we need to make sure that that is a common sense approach. And the last Farm Bill was written in a climate of high farm prices. It was written at a time when corn and soybeans were at record levels, when cattle and hog prices were at record levels. And so some of the mechanisms for the counter-cyclical payments and the price supports aren't necessarily working as well today as we had hoped they would when markets turn down. So I think we'll see a discussion, especially from corn and soybean farmers, wheat farmers as well, about how do we fix that system to be able to support us better in times of low prices, and then shut off when prices return to profitability.
Well, it's nobody is surprised by the fact that commodity prices are so low. They have been for the last few years. Being the largest industry in Nebraska, and watching every day as the legislature tosses around these huge numbers of revenue shortfall. I mean, at one point, $900 million, which is just inconceivable. I mean, then it gets down to $100 million. Now it's back up to somewhere around $300 million. How much does that affect just the day-to-day operations of Nebraska agriculture, knowing that it is the biggest proponent of economy in Nebraska?
Well, I think that the fact that farm prices are down really shows the state once again how important agriculture is to our state. In the crisis years for the U.S. economy in 2008, when we had the major downturn nationally, Nebraska weathered that storm. We were the second strongest state at that time. North Dakota was stronger than we were, and they were developing their oil reserves in North Dakota, but we were second. And so that was when the ag economy was strong. We weathered that national downturn better than anywhere else, and so that, I think, got our Nebraska friends in Lincoln and Omaha to take note of how important agriculture is. Now that the national economy is picking up, but the farm economy is going down, we see Nebraska struggling again, which again underscores that tie that we have between agriculture being strong in Nebraska and Nebraska's economy being strong.
We talk a lot about the revenue shortfall on a state level. We talk a lot, we just talked with Governor Pete Ricketts about trade with China, trade, going against Argentina and going against Australia when it comes to beef. And those are such huge concepts on a global scale. How does the farmer down the road who's just trying to scratch his way out and make a living, how do you relate those to him?
So, I think that most Nebraska farmers and ranchers understand the importance of the world marketplace and understand that we are we're the fourth largest ag producing state in the nation. We're the 38th population state. So obviously we have to look for markets outside of our state borders to be able to sell our goods, and so that's domestic, but more importantly it's international. And so we're looking for ways to be able to make Nebraska more competitive and claim more of the U.S. market share to Nebraska in these markets. In 2005, we started a project with the Beef Council in trying to brand Nebraska beef in the foreign marketplace. And at that time, of all the beef that left the U.S. for an international market, Nebraska had about 3.8% market share. After 10 years of working in multiple marketplaces to tell the Nebraska agriculture story, to connect the beef from Nebraska with a consumer and help them understand where their food came from, in 2016, we had grown to 18% market share of that U.S. beef export market. And in Europe, we had gone from 5% to 50% share. And so it proved that we can take a simple story like Nebraska beef and make a difference in how consumers view us in the world marketplace. And so now we're looking to partner with other commodities. We've proven that the experiment works, and so we want to do that with pork. We want to look for opportunities to do that with corn, soybeans, and wheat. But mainly our big opportunity is to take those raw materials that we grow, corn, wheat, and soybeans, and turn them into something value added, which is red meat or poultry.
Now, for those of us who couldn't come down to the conference yesterday and today, what are they missing?
Well, they're missing some great discussions on this concept of branding and how we can make a difference in growing demand. The governor's also launched last July a branding concept to try to just brand the state, to sell it to people looking for a place to land, an expansion or a new business, to brand the state for people to come to Nebraska to live and find a job. And so that's part of it. They're going to miss out on discussions about what the next farm bill might look like and how a new administration in Washington, D.C. We have Steve Senske from the American Soybean Association here to talk about it from a commodity perspective. And then they miss the opportunity just to get to see friends and neighbors from across the state and renew friendships.
Well, Greg, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing some of those insights.
That's always a pleasure.